Good evening, and welcome to this forum, which is brought to you by the Sacramento Metro Cable Television Commission. Our forum this evening will focus on the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors District 3 race, and it will be broadcast live on Metro Cable Channel 14. It will be rebroadcast as follows: Sunday, February 23rd at 6 p.m., Monday, February 24th at 6 p.m., Sunday, March 1st at 9 a.m., and Monday, March 2nd at 6 p.m. My name is Nancy Compton. I am with the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or political parties. But what we do is provide voter services and voter education. We study public policy issues and develop positions, and we make it easier for the voting public to make informed choices at the ballot box. This year, 2020, we are celebrating our 100th anniversary, having been founded in 1920, the same year that the 19th Amendment passed, finally granting women the right to vote. Our candidates this evening are seated alphabetically. Starting at my left, your right, we have Matt Chicato, Rich Desmond, Greg Fishman, Tiffany Mock Goman, and Cottrell Wood, all candidates for District 3 Board of Supervisors. The format for this evening's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will be provided 1 to 2 minutes for opening remarks. The candidates will then answer questions for 1.5 minutes, and then they will make closing statements for 1 minute. I will start with the questions on my left, your right, and then the next time I will start on the other side to give everybody equal time. So we will start the questioning with Matt. And the first question is, would you vote for an emergency climate declaration that ensures our county achieves zero fossil fuel use as quickly as possible, at least by 2030? Please elaborate.
You want an introduction first?
I am so sorry. Yes, we should introduce the candidates. Okay, I jumped right in. We will now have the candidates provide their opening statements, and we will start with Matt.
Yes. Good evening to all of you at home. Thank you for being here and listening this evening to League of Women Voters and Metro Cable for putting this forum on. My name is Matt Chicato, and I'm running to be your next county supervisor. I was born and raised in Sacramento, attending our public schools, knowing what it's like in life of community of Sacramento. My parents worked for the state, and my dad cleaned the building at night as the janitor. We lived life at certain times with one car or no cars, but we always had each other. We had the sense of community, and we had the Parkway here in Sacramento. We had the natural resources and things that really made my childhood. All of that changed on September 11th. That morning, after I helped my mom, after the rest of the state of California was evacuated from downtown Sacramento, I walked right into an Army recruiting station and raised my right hand. I felt a call, a commitment to service, not only my family and my friends, but my entire community back here in Sacramento. I spent over almost 5 years as an airborne paratrooper in the U.S. Army, deploying twice to Iraq. It was on my second tour where I was wounded, returning to my hometown, returning to Sacramento in a wheelchair with a hospital bed from the VA. That wasn't enough. I knew we had to continue the fight. I knew we had to continue spreading our sense of community. After attending school here at Sacramento State and meeting a wonderful lady who's now my wife, and we're raising 2 beautiful little girls, I started working with Congressman Barre's office. And now, for almost 7 years, we've been on the front lines helping all of you, helping you with workshops, helping you with assistance, and we will continue to take that same mentality and do it for you as a supervisor in Sacramento County. We can do more. We must do more to address this homeless crisis, have real economic development, and make it an equitable opportunity for every single person living here in Sacramento County. And that is why I am running to represent you, but more importantly, to continue my commitment to service. My name is Matt Chicato. Thank you.
And thank you, Matt. Our next opening statement will be from Rich Desmond.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum this evening. My name is Rich Desmond. I am a lifetime resident in District 3 in Carmichael. I'm the youngest of 9 kids, fifth generation Sacramento kid. I've been involved in volunteering and community service in this district my entire adult life. I just retired after 24 years serving the state of California in public service in the California Highway Patrol. I'm running for this position because, quite simply, I love this community. I've been a part of this community my entire life. My life is deeply woven into the fabric of this community, and I love it. It's a wonderful place to live. But we have real struggles, real challenges in this community, and I want to work hard with the community, with other elected officials in this community to improve the quality of life for everybody who lives here and works here. I spent the last 4 years of my career in the Highway Patrol as the legislative liaison over at the state capitol. In that position, I had the opportunity to work with elected officials, non-elected officials, stakeholders on all sides of major public policy issues affecting the state of California, affecting law enforcement, affecting commercial private industry issues throughout the state. And during this time, I developed a reputation of being someone who can work very well with people with disparate interests to solve problems, to make sure that government is working better for the public that it's intended to serve, to make sure that government is more hospitable to businesses in the state of California. We have real problems in Sacramento County: homelessness, economic development, public safety, our roadways. I look forward to the conversation tonight, and I look forward to earning your support to be your next supervisor on March 3rd. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Rich. Our next opening statement will be from Greg Fishman.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here, especially on the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters. That's quite a milestone, and I'm proud to be here. I'm running for Sacramento County Supervisor in District 3 as well. My name is Greg Fishman. I'm currently serving on the SMUD Board of Directors. I've been on the board there for 5 years, and I'm extremely proud of the role that SMUD is playing in our community. We're keeping your lights on. Your rates are about 35% lower than other utilities. We're always highly rated for customer service, and we're doing the right thing for the environment as well. We're leading the way in that effort. So I'm hoping to take that same common sense approach to solving problems to Sacramento County. SMUD is literally recognized as one of the best public utilities in the country, and I think it's also recognized as one of the best public agencies in the Sacramento region. I can translate that to Sacramento County and be an effective representative for District 3. So I've always served Sacramento for the 40 years that I've been in town. I was a journalist and actually sat in this room covering the Board of Supervisors back in the late 80s and early 90s. I have been a member of the California State Association of County Staff for 6 years, learning some of the most effective and innovative county programs around the state, and I can bring some of those ideas to Sacramento County as well. I've been a tree planter for the Sacramento Tree Foundation, literally putting down roots in my community. I've led a tree program in my neighborhood where we've planted more than 2,000 trees in the last 15 or 16 years, and I've been a frequent volunteer elsewhere for the Sacramento Tree Foundation. The partnership between SMUD and the Sacramento Tree Foundation that offers free trees to people is one of the best recognized programs of its kind in the country. These are just some of the innovative ideas that I hope to bring to Sacramento County to start improving our community, making a difference, making things better, especially when it comes to homelessness, housing, the condition of our streets and roads, and frankly, just general good government. We need to do better. We can do better. I have the leadership and the experience to make that happen here at Sacramento County. My name is Greg Fishman. I'm running for Sacramento County Supervisor.
Thank you, Greg. Our next opening statement will be from Tiffany Mock-Goman.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I made a decision to run a little more than a year ago, and it was really the result of my frustration with the lack of leadership at the county level around the issues of housing and homelessness. I have 25 years of being a nonprofit leader working on housing, homelessness, substance use, and mental health issues. And what I continue to see in our community is that those issues are being ignored. And we're experiencing, as the residents of our county, we're experiencing those in a way that is monumentally a problem for us and has become a crisis. We now have 5,500 people sleeping on the streets. 3 years ago, that number was substantially less, and in 2015 it was only 1,100. So we are facing a huge crisis on housing and homelessness, and I am the only person at this counter who has any experience professionally working on those two issues. I bring both my 25 years of leadership experience in the nonprofit world, but I also bring the experience of working here in Sacramento at Sacramento Steps Forward on the issues of homelessness and housing. And I understand and I've experienced what it looks like to work on the inside in the county where those issues are not being addressed the way residents are wanting to see that. I have a deep strategy on how to help us turn the corner on these issues, and my strategies will also help us improve the other things we're concerned about in our district, things like safety, things like potholes, things like park and access for our kids. And I think that at the end of the day, what we really need to be looking at is how are we going to move the needle on all the issues that we're concerned about, and we need to be looking for someone who is engaged in the change, not just sitting in a chair. Thanks.
And thank you, Tiffany. And our final opening statement will be from Cottrell Wood.
Thank you, Nancy, for the invitation. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, but for those of you at home who don't know me, my name is Cottrell Wood, and I'm a candidate for Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, District 3. My fellow candidates here, we're all extremely qualified and very focused on doing what's best for this community. But I think what differentiates me from the other candidates is my education, my experience. I am well positioned. Given my education, I am trained with the London School of Economics with a bachelor's degree in politics and international relations, and I've studied finance at Cornell and economics at Oxford. The reason I bring this up is because there are lots of issues facing this community. Housing is at a 10-year low for affordability. Our roads are in need of constant repairs, and we've seen a 50% rise in homelessness between 2015 and 2019. If we want to essentially elect someone who is going to address these issues and be an agent of change, I think you want someone who is innovative, someone who is young, someone who is experienced, and someone who has the analytical chops and the know-how to assess the problems that face our community, but also has the skill, the know-how, the education, and the experience to both efficiently and cost-effectively resolve these issues without providing that additional tax burden on the constituents within District 3. I'm a father, a husband. I'm a resident of Fair Oaks. I'm the 39th honorary mayor of Fair Oaks, and I've been an active member of this community via the Fair Oaks Chamber of Commerce and Habitat for Humanity. I'm running because ultimately I feel as though the incumbent has let us down. We have a certain level of expectations that we want for this community, and they haven't been met. Again, 15 years of the incumbent, and I can't think of many positive things that I would stand up and applaud her on. If you want a vision that you're proud of, a vision or a legacy for your children and your grandchildren, then I would highly ask that you vote for Cottrell Wood on March 3rd for your next supervisor. Thank you.
And thank you, Cottrell. After listening to the opening statements, I'm going to lead with a different first question. And I'm going to start right here and go that way, and then we'll come over and start with Rich and go that way. So now the first question is, and this is going to be for you. Yep. If elected, do you have plans to rapidly increase housing inventory for low to moderate income individuals in Sacramento County and District 3?
Yes, I do. One of the big problems right now with building more housing, there's several, but one of them is there's $30,000 to $50,000 in impact fees per unit to get a project off the ground, just to start building a new project, just to pull those permits. I think that's way too high, and it's getting in the way. And so the impact fees are supposed to pay for the impact of a new development on schools, roads, sewer, water, all the infrastructure. And those impacts are real, but I think we're not looking at the impact of not building those housing projects and what impact that has on our communities. And so I think we should look into either reducing, where possible eliminating, or at least allowing the financing of those impact fees. That will reduce the cost right away. I think we can also look at programs that allow higher density for programs where the developer is willing to set aside a certain number of units in a given project for affordable housing. So if a plan calls for 50 units to be built, but that developer is willing to set aside some units for low-income housing, we allow a higher density. That reduces the per-unit cost, increases the likelihood that that project is going to get built, and we get 20, 30, whatever the number is, units of affordable housing in that project. Finally, we need to streamline the permitting process in general. What I'm hearing is it takes 18 months to 2 years sometimes to get a project approved through the process at the county. That's far too long. Developers don't have that much time to wait to get a project built. If we really want to impact the housing process in Sacramento and build more affordable housing, we have to streamline that process.
Thank you. Same question, and by the way, if anyone needs me to repeat the question, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Nancy. So I have a strategy for quickly moving forward on housing projects. And the first thing is that the Board of Supervisors only has really limited controls under the Constitution, but those powers include property taxes, zoning, and planning. And bringing the weight of the Board of Supervisors to bear around those issues is important. We do need to strategize about what we do in planning and zoning, but at a very high level, the things that I would be talking about with stakeholders would be things like bringing in higher density single-family housing, and I call those micro subdivisions. We see those where you can put up to 8 single-family units on the same size as a regular property in District 3 because our lots are quite large. Also, looking at our commercial corridors, a lot of our commercial corridors are blighted. I'd like to see some of those less successful corridors be brought down and new commercial put in with residential mixed above it. That would allow us to have lower affordable housing on the lower levels, smaller, more modest, more expensive units going up for condominiums. We also need to be looking at tiny houses and smaller houses. Right now, zoning doesn't allow for units that we consider tiny houses to be put on a foundation. And so we need to be looking at all of those pieces. And also, if we were to take development fees and backload them so that people could pay the development fees after they've completed the process, that allows the cash flow issue for the builders to work out much better.
Thank you. And Cottrell.
Yes. Essentially, my focus is limiting and reducing the roadblocks to affordable housing. If you go to my website, www.cottrellwood.org, you'll see I've outlined a very detailed 6-point plan where I focus on the expansion of development opportunities. We need to rethink, as Greg so eloquently put, we need to find ways to reduce those impact fees. The fees in general are one of the largest hurdles to new construction within this district. We need to find ways to incentivize developers so that they have an incentive to build more affordable homes. We need to leverage private investment so that we can create those affordable homes. And ultimately, I think it's important that we focus on just looking for creative ways to promote more affordable housing within this community. As I mentioned earlier, 10-year low when it comes to home affordability, and there's a direct correlation between housing affordability and homelessness. I've taken part in the last 2 PID counts, and in each of those PID counts, for those of you who aren't familiar, the PID count is a point-in-time count where you go out and you essentially survey the homeless. The number one reason for the homeless within this community is the lack of affordable housing. If we are going to address homelessness, we need to do something about affordable housing, and we need to look at all options available.
Thank you. And now, same question to Rich.
Thank you very much. And this is such a huge issue, but I think it's important to note that we can't wait for just more affordable housing to be built. We have to do more right now, which is why I will start with identifying where some appropriate locations might be, not only in District 3, but certainly in Sacramento County and the region for shelters and safe sleeping centers, things that we can put up much more quickly than more affordable housing projects, which are absolutely desperately needed. And I agree with a lot of things that my counterparts have said here, certainly. But But the reality is also that affordable housing is more expensive. It's more expensive to build an affordable housing unit in the state of California than it is a market rate unit, because once you start going into the affordable housing area, there are a lot more mandates that end up attaching to it. I'm very hopeful that in the governor's budget that he mentioned in the State of the State today, he is proposing $700 million to help jumpstart more affordable housing in the state of California. And yes, we need to look at the impact fees. Yes, we need to look at creative financing solutions that the governor certainly talked about. But we need to also have good relationships with infill developers and even larger scale developers. I'm very proud that I've been endorsed by the North State BIA, the Associated General Contractors, Metro Chamber PAC, and others, because they recognize that I am certainly someone who will be able to look at where the red tape is, where the hurdles are to building more affordable housing, and to change the dynamic in Sacramento County to make it a place that's more friendly to building and investing in these kinds of projects.
Okay, thank you. And to Matt.
Great, thank you very much. We're not doing enough. Simply put, Sacramento County is letting too many people down. We can talk about affordable housing, and we can talk about ways to limit fees and impact fees and regulations to make it easier to build, but that does nothing to the people that are sleeping outside tonight. That does nothing to the small business owner that has to move them in the morning, or nothing to the children that have to find a shower before school. That does nothing to the people that get a high utility bill, or their rent goes up and they're now being evicted from a home they've lived in for some time. And so we must address this all together. Yes, we must build, but we also must keep people in their apartments and keep people in their homes, keep families together, because we know it's easier, we know it's cheaper, and we know it's better as a whole, as a society here in Sacramento County, when we keep people housed and we get them indoors. So we need to be creative with what the governor was talking about with the State of State address. We need to understand the relationships between the city of Sacramento, but also out in the county, in the city of Folsom, Elk Grove, and Citrus Heights, bringing the unincorporated areas and the community together and find a collaborative solution, a collaborative way we can get people indoors here in Sacramento County, and they can have the dignity of finding themselves in a warm place to sleep this time of year. We must do more here in Sacramento County.
Thank you, and thank you all for your responses to a situation that's very critical in our community. The next question, and I'm going to start down there, and I'm just going to go all the way through, and this addresses transportation. Next fall, Sacramento area residents may be voting on an additional half-cent sales tax to generate the revenue needed to support and improve our transportation infrastructure. Those concerned about our infrastructure are asking local elected officials to follow Sac Metro advocates for rail and transit's guiding principles, which envisions a future in which most county residents can live and work within walking or biking distance or a transit stop from everything they need. What is your position on the future for transportation in Sacramento County?
That's a really good question. It's a complex question, and it comes with a complex answer because, yes, I think that is the ideal. The dream is to have housing near the points of transit, but there are lots of things that we need to consider when it comes to building new developments. What are the impacts on the environment? What are the costs to the members of the community? And I don't just mean fiscal costs or fiscal implications. What are the environmental implications? What are the traffic implications? There are lots of things to consider. So I'm hesitant to just essentially take a stand and say, yes, I'm for this or I'm opposed to this. As I mentioned earlier, my background affords me the requisite skill set to be very analytical. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to go and analyze the details of these various issues before we commit to them, because otherwise, why are we here? We're here to analyze problems and provide economic, efficient solutions, and that's what I'm running on.
Thank you. Same question, Tiffany.
So I think that whether or not we vote for the half-cent sales tax, I think really what we have to be talking about is how do we change a culture in which we're really car-driven. And some of the things that we need to be looking at are things like if we were to be concentrating housing and services along commercial corridors, similar to what I proposed, then we're really creating concentrated demand for RT, which right now we don't really have. And RT, particularly in District 3, is abysmal at best. Most people can't even get from their home to work on rapid transit right now, or even on bus systems. The other thing that I think is important that we look at as we're considering what the future is for transportation in our community, we are in a great place where we're training a whole generation of students to use public transit, and we need to make sure that our system is ready for them to graduate from that system and continue to be riders. And one way we do that is by looking at how do we concentrate both demand and also access. I think we have a lot of potential in terms of what we do with our transit system, but we have to start also by looking at, we have to stop building further out because that's what's filling our freeways. We don't have enough commuter incentive. We could be doing things like casual carpool, from further out, which is a Bay Area kind of tool, but it's one that works very efficiently, and it's one that really is not utilized at all in our community. We also have the ability to be thinking about what does it look like as our population of seniors continues to age and aren't able to get around. How are we going to provide services for them as well?
Thank you, Tiffany. Greg, same question.
Yeah, this is a great question, and one that our region is going to be grappling with for the next several years at least, as new state and federal monies come into the county and the city. I think what we have to do is really find that balancing point. So we've got infrastructure that is crumbling, and the longer we wait to fix it, the more expensive it's going to get to fix it. I might also add that the longer you wait, and if you have to completely repair a road, starting literally from the gravel base up, it creates more greenhouse gases and more emissions that we're trying to avoid. So fixing those roads that are on the verge of being unusable, that's where we've got to start. We've got to fix the potholes. We've got to do that as well. But we also have to put enough money into regional transit, into light rail, so that we can extend it to the airport, extend it to Elk Grove, extend it up to Roseville if we can do that. And we've also got to make sure that we're putting enough of the local money into those pots for regional transit so that we're qualifying for the state and federal grants that often require matching funds. So this is a tough balancing act that we've got to do, and it's going to require a lot of public input. It's going to require a lot of time, and it's going to require a lot of listening on behalf of the people that are sitting on this board and others to make sure that we're doing the best we possibly can for this region. But there is that balancing act, there is that balancing point where we're meeting the needs as best we can with the dollars that we have available. But I think it's imperative that we put enough into transit so that we're not losing out on the state and federal grant money that is available to help do things like light rail to the airport, light rail to Elk Grove, and elsewhere.
Thank you. Okay, Rich, the same question.
Thank you very much. You know, throughout the course of this campaign, I've knocked on over 2,600 doors, and right behind the infinitely complex issue of homelessness, it seems to be the condition of our roadways is the number 2 most important issue that people bring up. It is an extremely frustrating issue, especially from the perspective that Sacramento County has now almost an $850 million maintenance backlog on our roadways. These are just the county roadways, and we spend about $34 million on them a year. So you can imagine how long it would take to ever get over that maintenance backlog, which may be impossible with only spending that amount of money. And what's really frustrating to folks is that California passed Senate Bill 1 a few years ago. That was a largest transportation tax in the history of the state of California, and it's what raised your vehicle registration fees. It raised your gas tax fees. I actually, when I was the legislative liaison at the Highway Patrol, I actually testified in favor of that legislation for the Brown administration. And the tagline of that was "Fix it first." Well, we have not been fixing it first. So one of my first priorities is to be looking at the county budget and making sure we're getting our fair share of those SB1 funds. And Greg is right. It's a big balancing act. We need to invest in more transit options. I recently met with Henry Lee, who's the head of our team. We talked about some innovative things we could do out here in District 3, like bus rapid transit. They're doing smart RT, which is a good thing. But we need to be doing more. But primarily we need to be focusing on fixing the roadways first, and that will be my priority. And I also look forward to being, as a supervisor, serving on SACOG and the RT board, where I can directly influence our transportation decisions. Thank you.
And thank you. Excuse me, Matt, the same question.
Thank you. This is another issue that's going to require real leadership to understand that filling a pothole with a slurry mix is going to create another problem just a short time down the road. Real leadership to stand up and understand that we need to have a failing infrastructure. We don't just need to fill our potholes. We need to redo number of streets. We need to ensure that they're walkable around schools for our children and our seniors. We need to ensure that regional transit is thriving here in the community. School kids and parents can get to work, children can get to school, all through a transit system that works for them, that's accessible and priced right. And we also need to ensure that our roads are meeting the demands of the cars on them right now. We need to not only build and fill potholes, but understand, can we take utility lines and put them underground? Can we extend broadband internet to parts of this district that have none? Can we ensure that storm gutters and rain runoff area is now meeting the demands of the system? These are things we can be smart with. So I say, when we go to dig and we go to build, which we're going to do day number one, we're going to do it smart. We're going to do it with your input, and we're going to do it understanding that the leverage of the federal and state dollars are going to make Sacramento County much better in the infrastructure plan.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, and let's see, what we'll do is we'll start with you and go that way.
Okay.
I guess that's what we already did, but that's okay, that'll work. Okay, the next question, AB 392, the new law that changes California's standard for police use of deadly force when necessary, went into effect on January 1st of this year. Over 200 law enforcement agencies must now comply with this higher necessary standard and update their deadly use of force policies to meet the requirements of this new law. However, the law enforcement lobby is still fighting against AB 392. As a member of the Board of Supervisors, how would you propose that the board oversee and intervene, if necessary, with the Sheriff's Department to ensure that AB 392 is fully implemented? Yes.
This is another one of the questions of our day, because what's happened, especially to the minority community here in Sacramento, elsewhere around the state, elsewhere around the country, is unconscionable. And so we have to be able to require those that we give greater authority, police agencies, to also have greater responsibility. And I have great respect for anybody who's willing to put on a badge and a uniform and carry a gun and go out and protect us. But again, with that greater authority comes great responsibility. And so we need to hold them accountable. We need to provide the training that AB 392 calls for. We need to make sure that our sheriff is providing that training to his line officers and deputies. A quick word about our sheriff. There have been a number of lawsuits and settlements related to mistreatment at the jail and other problems that have cost taxpayers in Sacramento County tens of millions of dollars. Those are dollars that could easily be spent, could much better be spent on true law enforcement, on real public safety, on drug and alcohol treatment for people who are homeless, for homeless services in general. We have to find a way to keep our sheriff more accountable, even though he is an elected official on his own, and the Board of Supervisors has limited authority over him. But we do have the bully pulpit of this dais, and I would intend to use that to keep our sheriff more accountable.
Thank you, Greg. Same question, Tiffany.
So I think some of the challenges we face as a community are really, how do we engage all the stakeholders who have skin in the game on the issue, and I think it's many of us. First, I'd like to see that we have a policing commission that reports directly to the Board of Supervisors, so that the board is in a position to be hearing directly from not just the commission, but also people who are working on behalf of the commission and who are providing feedback to the commission. Having a commission that reports back to the organization it's supervising is pointless, really. The other thing is that when we often see excessive use of deadly force, we're often talking about people, the victim being someone who has severe mental health problems. And this is something that we see over and over again. And what I'd really like to see are that we have more mental health resources that are embedded with our response teams so that they have someone helping them to figure out what the correct assessment is in the situation. And then finally, what we have to do is figure out how to create a culture change within law enforcement by bringing back community policing in a meaningful way. And that really starts at the ground and at the community level. And I would encourage our community to be able to do that by engaging with our essentially foot traffic and our beat cops and sheriffs to come and engage with their community that they're protecting.
Thank you, Tiffany. Same question, Cottrell.
Our law enforcement officers have a very, very difficult job. And I'm, as a minority, obviously this is something that's near and dear to me because I do empathize with some of the critiques of our law enforcement. But at the same time, I'm hesitant to critique or criticize them because they're not all bad apples. We have a lot of really good, dedicated law enforcement officials serving Sacramento County. I think what's important is that we find a way to have a more collaborative relationship with our communities of color and our law enforcement officials so that we can try to get to the core of the issues so that we can reduce implicit or explicit bias so we can ultimately eliminate, and that's right, I said eliminate. The goal is to eliminate unnecessary deaths by our officers, and at the same time, we need to be cognizant of the deaths that the law enforcement has experienced. Death on either end is inexcusable, and I think this goes back to understanding what's important to our community, what's important to our officers, and how we can find a way to collaborate and find solutions so that we can ultimately address these issues that are clearly plaguing a lot of our communities of color.
Thank you. Okay, same question, Rich.
Thank you. This is such a compelling issue because the authority vested in law enforcement officers to use force to effect an arrest or in the course of their duties is probably the biggest power given to any government actor. I have a unique perspective and obviously experience in this issue as a member of the California Highway Patrol for 24 years. I have been involved in these kinds of decisions, use of force decisions, as a patrol officer and working in the field in the CHP. I have trained officers on how to use appropriate force, and I have investigated and disciplined officers as both a sergeant and a lieutenant in the CHP's Office of Internal Affairs when they use force inappropriately. I also think this is an issue that I think AB 392, which was authored by Dr. Shirley Weber, the use of force bill, the law enforcement lobby actually came off the bill because they were able to sit down with Dr. Weber, ACLU, NAACP, and other stakeholders and come up with a compromise that ultimately Governor Newsom signed. And I think that was the right approach. And what went along with that companion legislation was Senate Bill 344, which mandated more training for officers. And I think I was involved in these efforts over at the state legislature, and I think that is the perspective and experience I bring to this job as a supervisor. And when it comes to holding the sheriff accountable, I'm very happy that the Sacramento County Supervisors unanimously approved a new inspector general. They selected an inspector general. It was also approved by the sheriff and the Law Enforcement Labor Organization, and that's a good step in the right direction, but I also want to explore doing more in Sacramento County.
Okay, thank you. And Matt, same question.
Yeah. I agree that this is a tough question. And I'm going to answer this question with a unique perspective. I'm going to answer this as somebody who served in the fog of war or a sunny day of war. I know what it's like to lead soldiers accountable at some situations which people at this stage can only fathom. And I knew that was the key. We would hold each other accountable. That's what we need to do here locally. We need to hold our sheriff accountable for the actions within the department and then within his own leadership. The lawsuits of sexual harassment, the lawsuits surrounding lack of treatment, are wrong, and they come out of our dollars as taxpayers. We need to ensure that our law enforcement has the training, not just for mental health treatment, but for domestic violence calls, to deal with children, to deal with all parts of our population. Because kids should not be afraid to dial 911. People should not be afraid to dial 911 here in Sacramento County. And we need to find a way that we can come together collaboratively as a community and bring that back together, to fill that divide with a bridge between the community and the law enforcement, and allow our community to thrive under the peaceful eye of the law enforcement community. And so we need to work together. We need to understand the constraints of each other, and we need to come together and train and educate ourselves on what we can do to make us all better here in Sac County.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, I believe what we'll do is start with you, if you just want to take a breath here. And then we'll just go all the way across. So, the question is, as a board member, how will you balance the wants and needs of District 3 with the overall needs of Sacramento County?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I can tell you I'm already doing that. For almost the last 7 years, I've been serving in Congressman Ami Bera's office. The congressman represents all of Sacramento County, all of the unincorporated Sacramento County, the various cities and different municipalities. And so we've been taking the needs of everyone and then being representative to the people. We need to be representative to who we are, but we also need to understand what we have here in Sacramento County. We can take our pros and we can take our cons, and we can come together as a community, and we can take our resources and leverage them amongst each other. Because I know what's good for a number of people in District 3, with an equitable opportunity, we're good for people all over Sacramento County. And so we can ensure that everything that we're doing is on the better behalf of all residents in Sacramento County, especially all of you. And that's the thing about this district. We need representation. Right now, we feel like we don't have anybody, and someone to stand up and not only speak on our behalf, but listen to us and listen to our demands, and that's what I would do as your supervisor.
Thank you, Matt. Rich, same question.
Thank you. It's such a great question, because it really gives me a chance to talk about the diversity in this district. This District 3 in Sacramento County is not only an anomaly in Sacramento County, but it's certainly an anomaly in the state. 285,000 people in this district, almost all of whom live in unincorporated urban areas. That you don't see that anywhere else in the state of California, which makes the job of the supervisor over this district very, very difficult, because the county oversees most of the municipal services for people in the district. And you talk about balancing the needs of the folks in the district. That is as diverse as the income levels and the demographics in this district. The needs and the concerns of folks in Fair Oaks, for instance, are completely different from the needs and concerns of residents in North Highlands or Foothill Farms or West Arden Arcade. And that's why it's so crucial to have a supervisor that is going to be as engaged in every one of those communities. My plan is to propose having ways to balance these needs. It's number one is communicate better with people in the district and host regular monthly meetings with every community in the district, at least monthly, to try to decentralize some board of supervisor meetings to be held in different places, not only throughout Sacramento County, but certainly throughout this district, to make our government more accessible. And that's the way we find out what the needs and concerns are and how we can balance them. But something that I really look forward to is being a champion for the communities that are struggling in District 3. I've seen these communities in North Highlands and Foothill Farms and West Arden Arcade struggle over the years, and I want to be a champion for them to help them succeed and help bring investment back into these communities.
Thank you, Rich. Greg, same question.
Yeah, District 3 is an incredible place. It has the most expensive real estate in Sacramento County. It also has areas of abject poverty that are within 3, 4, 5 miles of that expensive real estate. It's incredibly diverse, with huge immigrant populations that are not currently being well served by some of the county programs that could be helping them adjust to a new life. So we absolutely have to have somebody in this seat that can relate to immigrant communities, that can relate to people of different cultures and different languages, and also somebody who can relate to people of different economic levels and different economic perspectives. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect of performing this job. It is the least incorporated of any of the 5 supervisorial districts in the county. There's just a little sliver of the city of Sacramento down around the Sac State and Campus Commons, College Greens area. The rest of it is all unincorporated. So yes, we do have a huge need for the municipal services that cities provide in other districts in the county. We have to find a way to actually, frankly, come to our colleagues on the Board of Supervisors and ask for a bigger piece of the pie, because we do have more of that municipal services to provide to District 3 than any place else in the county. I look forward to having those discussions with my colleagues on the board. I look forward to serving District 3 and engaging with that diversity. It is a great place because of that diversity, and I look forward to serving District 3.
Thank you, Greg. Tiffany, same question.
Thank you. In my experience, good policy is generally universal, but this job is really about representing the people of District 3 among the board. And so I think it's important that we understand there has to be a balance between the needs of the district and also the specific needs of our community. And you've heard a lot of people talk about how different our community is than our other districts. But I think what's really critically important is that we come to understand the kind of things that I don't think are getting talked enough about, things like environmental justice for our community. We have very wealthy parts of our district, and we have other areas that really have languished without any attention for many, many decades. And so what I think is most important is that whoever supervisor engages at the community level with the groups that are already meeting and that are already expressing their concerns, not as a featured speaker, but as someone who comes regularly and is listening to what the community is really talking about, what their concerns are, what their proposals are, what their fears and their suggestions are, being in a place so that people have an opportunity to really approach you. It's the thing I hear most from people, that they're unable to reach their representative, and we need to ensure that the person who's sitting in the seat is someone who really has an open door and is out in the community working with people and who wants to create change in a way that they are going to demonstrate on their corner. Thanks.
Thank you, Tiffany. Ann Cottrell, same question.
It is a really good question. And yes, I am running to represent North Highlands, Fair Oaks, Foothill Farms, Carmichael, Arden Arcade. But I think what's important is that I also find ways to work with Board Member Natoli, Board Member Cerna, Board Member Kennedy, or whoever else is elected. The issues that face District 3 are issues that I think all of Sacramento County can agree on that need to be addressed. As Tiffany mentioned earlier, approximately 6,000 individuals in Sacramento sleep on the streets on any given night. A homeless person dies on average every 3 days in this community, and we've seen an 85% increase of unsheltered homeless between 2015 and 2017. I think those issues extend beyond District 3, and I think that's what we need to focus on. To your question, yes, we are running to represent District 3, but a lot of the issues that face District 3, because it is such a diverse community, I think essentially District 3, what I'm saying, is a microcosm of greater Sacramento County. If we can find ways to address those issues in District 3, I think all of Sacramento County benefits.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, and I'm going to start with you.
All right.
Charles. So this question addresses climate change. Would you vote for an emergency climate declaration that ensures that our county achieves zero fossil fuel use as quickly as possible, at least by 2030? Please elaborate.
I don't think much elaboration is necessary. Yes, climate change is one of the most important issues facing our community, facing our country, facing our planet. I think it's incumbent upon every elected representative to acknowledge that based on the facts. The facts are clear. You'll hear others say that climate change is a figment of our imagination. That's not the case. Whether it be increases in fires, flooding, greenhouse gas emissions that are beyond restraint now. Yes, I'm willing to take all feasible and necessary actions to reduce our footprint when it comes to climate change, but I think it's also important that we not overburden members of this community and our society with unnecessary fees or taxes or things along those lines. Again, I know I keep saying this, but it's important that we find ways to collaborate and compromise, because more things unite us than separate us, regardless of political ideology. I'm wanting to represent Republicans, represent Democrats, independents, no party preference. All of us want what's best for our future, and if we want to have a sustainable future, we need to acknowledge that greenhouse gas emissions and climate change are real, and we need to do something about it now.
Thank you. Tiffany, same question.
I wholly support the idea that we have to deal with climate change as an emergency, and I do believe 2030 is a very big target, but that's one that we need to be striving towards. To say that we can't and just throw up our hands and move the end goal off further is really just putting off the inevitable. I think one of the things that's really important is that we have a comprehensive strategy that addresses this, and some of my strategies around housing and around transit are also ways that we can be looking at this. And so it can't just be about how are we going to get there. It has to be about a comprehensive plan that moves our community forward on really all the fronts, because they're all interrelated. Housing, transit, the environment, our utilities, how kids are getting to school, right? All of those things are related, and if we just focus on one item and we don't see a comprehensive, full-scale plan that addresses all of those things, we're really not going to have a lot of success. But I do really want to stress that the thing that I believe we can do the biggest change with in our community is really looking at how do we reduce further development further out in our community, that we need to be doing more infill. Everybody talks to me now about how busy the freeway is, and that if we continue to just build in the further afield, we are not going to be able to achieve these goals.
Thank you. And Greg, same question.
Sure. Let me start by talking a little bit about SMUD's program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have one of the most aggressive plans among utilities in the nation to start weaning away from natural gas and other fossil fuels. And that includes increasing our use of solar and wind and other renewable resources, increasing our use of hydroelectricity where we can, increasing the use of biomass and biogas where that's possible, and also by helping our constituents, the people of Sacramento County, electrify their transportation and their buildings, and also get ready for the hydrogen economy when there is a breakthrough on hydrogen fuel cell technology. I think it's coming. We're not quite there yet. It also means helping our customers and our residents expand the use of energy storage, which is still an emerging technology. It's getting better. The technology is improving all the time. It's still not quite there yet, but we can increase the use of storage. So yes, absolutely. Climate change is an emergency. We need to treat it as such. I think getting rid of fossil fuel use by 2030 is a great aspirational goal. SMUD is ready to help the county do that. Having that relationship, I think, having the county take advantage of what SMUD has to offer in terms of electrifying fleets, adding more electric vehicle charging stations throughout the region can only help. Adding more solar, rooftop solar to county buildings, another way that SMUD can help.
Okay, thank you. Rich, same question.
Thank you. I cannot commit to that right now, but what I do commit to is certainly supporting the state's emission reduction goals and supporting the county's climate action plan. Climate change is an emergency. It's an existential threat. What I want to do is look at the county's climate action plan, which is its version, its way to meet the state's climate goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and see if we can speed that up and do a better job. But I will certainly be focusing on, as Tiffany mentioned, more transit to try to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, attracting more infill development, and if we do additional development, not sprawl, but additional responsible development, making sure that it is sustainable. The problem, I think, with trying to do more right now is that we run the risk that if we impose more burdens on our building community in the state of California, we risk making our affordable housing crisis even worse. So that is something that very, very much concerns me. But this is something that is a priority of mine. I've talked to a lot of folks in the building and development community about this, about ways that everybody can chip in to reach the state's greenhouse gas emissions goals and even do more in Sacramento County.
Okay, thank you. And Matt, same question.
Yes. Climate change is real. Climate change is happening right now all around the world, but especially here in Sacramento County. And if we don't act today, if we don't stand up right now, we're going to lose one of the crown jewels of our region at the American River Parkway. We're going to have devastating wildfires like we've seen around Northern California increase, floods here in our rivers, taking over an already horrific housing crisis. Things need to happen. So we can support the state's goals about limiting greenhouse gases, but we also need to be creative about electrifying the fleet for Sacramento County. We can also determine what the new technologies out there and work with UC Davis and Sac State. These engineers that are graduating, allow them to stay here in this community and work on the technology that allow us to sequester carbon or do other things that'll stop this very quick march to what is a very uncertain future. And so we must act now, and that takes real leadership. And here in Sacramento County, we can stand up, and we can be a model for the entire region and across the state and across the nation of what people coming together, acting together under one specific plan is to ensure that they will all be here to save everyone and what it can do. And Sacramento County will lead the way when it comes to preparing and acting on climate change for the future, because this is a very real issue.
Thank you. It's time for our closing statements. Each candidate will provide a 1-minute closing statement, and we will start at my right, your left, with Cantrell.
Oh. Again, I really appreciate the invitation this evening. There are a lot of important issues that need addressing, and as I mentioned before, I'm really proud to have campaigned with these other 4 candidates. I've gotten to know them well, and they're very committed to these issues. But again, what differentiates me from my opponents is I'm wanting to move this county beyond the status quo. As I've mentioned before, during the last 15 years, we've seen housing that is no longer affordable. Our roads are in constant need of repair. And we've seen a 50% rise in homelessness within the last 2 years. If you want someone who is innovative, vibrant, and really interested in finding solutions to these problems, not just making empty promises because we want to get elected, then I am your candidate. If you want someone who is focused on the communities they were elected to serve and not corporate interests or special interests, I am your candidate. If you want someone who is who wasn't born here but decided to move here because he sees a lot of hope, promise, and potential for this community, I am your candidate. Cottrell Wood, March 3rd, 2020, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Cottrell. Tiffany?
So I want to express my appreciation for this evening. What I really want to talk about is a vision for what our community looks like. We need to be building more affordable and middle market housing. We need to make first-time home ownership a real possibility for people again. And we need to be looking to see the benefits of that as we push through it. Expanding our tax base instead of increasing our taxes is essential if we're going to address the other things that we're concerned about. If we're going to talk about how do we subsidize rapid transit, how do we fix our roads, how do we address other needs that our community is looking for from its leadership. And there is a plan that can take place and that can help those things happen. I'd encourage you to look at it. It's on my website, tiffanyforsupervisor.com. I bring 25 years of nonprofit leadership to this campaign because I want to see a change in my community, and I'm not interested in being a politician in the long term. I'm looking to serve 2 terms and then go back to my day job, which is really what every politician should be looking to do.
Thank you, Tiffany. Greg?
Thank you again for this opportunity, and again, especially on the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters, it's an honor. I'm the only candidate that's actually held elective office here, and I'm really proud of the 5 years I've spent serving on the SMUD board. I'm the only candidate with direct experience in county government, working for 6 years with the California State Association of Counties. That's why the Sacramento Bee called me the change we need and a proven leader. And I'm proud to have the Sacramento Bee's endorsement. I've also received the endorsement from the Sacramento News and Review. These are journalistic entities that look at government and try to make things better. I'm the candidate that they've said is the one who can make things better in Sacramento County. I'm proud of the role that I've already played in this community, serving on the SMUD board, my local Park and Recs board, planting trees with the Sacramento Tree Foundation. I'm really hoping to take that experience, that passion for community service to the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. My name is Greg Fishman. Please vote, and please vote for me.
Thank you, Greg. Rich?
Thank you, and again, thank you for hosting this tonight. And I also want to echo what Cottrell said. It is truly an honor for me to be up here with my 4 opponents on this stage tonight. They're all wonderful people dedicated to this community. I do think I have some distinctions. I am the only lifelong resident here, and that's not the only factor, but that is a factor. I am deeply connected to this community. I love this community. This is a wonderful place to live that has a lot of challenges. I have a very good leadership experience managing people and programs, complex programs and people, and I've been able to carry out change that makes government more effective for the people it's designed to serve and for the business community. I'm proud that I'm the only one who is a nonpartisan candidate. This is a nonpartisan seat. I have not sought the office of either political party, and I will not be accountable to a political party. I'll be accountable and beholden to the constituents of this district. And I can't solve all the problems in Sacramento County, but I promise you this: if you elect me, I will be a representative who works hard for you and will be responsive to you and accountable to you. So I hope you will support me, Rich Desmond, on March 3rd.
Thank you, Rich. And Matt?
Thank you. Thank you again for hosting this forum tonight to League of Women Voters, and congratulations on 100 years. This race is about choice. It's a choice of leadership. We've had people that represent the status quo in this race. If you don't think there's a homeless problem, or we have an issue with infrastructure, or a lack of economic development, you can elect people up here that represent a lack of inaction. Or we can realize that together we can go far. Together, all of Sacramento, if we do it equitable, the opportunity is there for everyone. This is real leadership, proven in the United States Army and working with you for almost the last 7 years in Congressman Bera's office. I'm proud to have been endorsed not only by Congressman Ami Bera, but Assemblymember Ken Cooley and other people around the region, and most of our young people organization, young professional, young students, or people in between. But this is the time for action in Sacramento. We can come together, let's collaborate, let's find the solutions that exist, and let's move forward under real leadership. Because time for excuses are over. And that's why I want to represent you, because it's my commitment to service. I'm Matt Chicato, and I'm running to represent you on the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to all the candidates who came out this evening, and thank you to the Sacramento Metro Cable Television Commission for hosting this broadcast. It will be rebroadcast on Sunday, February 23rd at 6 p.m., Monday, February 24th at 6 p.m., Sunday, March 1st at 9 a.m., and Monday, March 2nd at 6 p.m. Thank you to all the voters out there. Remember to vote in the primary on March 3rd and the general election on November 3rd. See you at the ballot box.